Hello, Twig enthusiasts. Welcome back. We are here today to talk about arcs 4, 5, and 6, which is kind of a fun little bunch. Our first episode we did we only got to do arc 1, and then we did 2 arcs last time, so having 3 feels very fun. And it's a very good trio to do. I think a lot of stuff gets set up in arc 4, and we kind of get emotional payoffs, whether good or bad, in arc 6. And I'm joined today by Willer.
Hello, my fellow Twig enjoyers. Don't count on 4 arcs next time. We're not going to keep that number going up.
Yeah.
We can now hit the schedule I originally wanted to do, which is like chunks of 3. I think
Yeah.
if it works out that way, we almost did 4 and 5. But Bradley was almost done with 6. It was like if we could squeeze 6 in, because the way 6 ended felt like a really good end of like an era for the story, I would say. But we'll get to that. Bradley, why don't you give us a little summary of what we've been up to?
Yeah, because in general, me and Willer like to we mostly go through these talking about our notes chronologically. So we kind of like to do a spark notes of what happened each arc, and then we'll go through mostly in order, but sometimes we'll jump around. If, for example, we hit a beat in arc 4 that's really relevant to a beat in arc 5, we might just talk about it. But arc
Yep.
4 starts off with the Lambs in another town. They are on the hunt for Genevieve Frey, who I think was the enemy interlude right before this arc. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
she's a known enemy of the Academy. They've been hunting her down for a while, and I think narratively, what's very important about this arc is that it starts off with Sai and even Gordon in the first chapter being very aware that the group dynamics are changing. They're not what they were before. I think a big reason Sai gives for this is the fact that they spent so long on this boring ass interview job in the bowels, and then they've spent so long chasing after Frey with no results. And he's like, the Lambs kind of bonded and became as close as we were by doing these jobs together. And he's like, the fact that we're not really doing jobs and the jobs we are doing aren't really going well. These two boys are just kind of worried about it. So the arc involves them hunting down Frey, Sai getting a one-on-one conversation with her, which is very fun. We'll talk about that. They break apart. We chase down Frey again, find her in her lab, which is where she kind of unleashes her bioweapon she's been working on while they've been chasing her, which sets up arcs 5 and 6, where Frey setting off her bioweapon has essentially just kicked off a full-blown war between the Crown and people who are not the Crown. And so Arc 5 is us kind of fighting that war. The Lambs are mostly working with this Brigadier General at a nearby town to where they were in Arc 4. No, actually, they spend most of the arc, I think, in this town occupied by the Resistance. And then they move over to a nearby town that is run by the Academy Army. And they are obviously fighting on the side of the Academy because the Academy is the good guys, right? And the word doesn't go very well for the Brigadier General. And then, so the Lambs eventually make it out of there, and they come back to the Academy finally in Arc 6. They've been gone for so long. And the Duke is here. I think the first, actual noble of the Crown we've seen in person. He's fucking terrifying. They're still fighting a war. The Lambs at the start of Arc 6 decide to kind of go out and I think kind of connect with the kids of the slums a little bit, get back to their roots. They find out that someone has been kidnapping kids for some type of project. They discover a mole in the academy and help the Duke root them out in a big flashy battle. So that's kind of the skeleton of what we hit, but
And then, real quick,
yeah.
what are the 3 interludes that we covered?
Yes. So, oh God, what were they in order? We had there are 4 assassins that are kind of hunting after there's 4 assassins that are hunting after the Lambs during the war arc. So we get to see a little bit of one of their points of view. We also get to see, I think we have one from Cynthia's point of view, which she was the leader of the Resistance faction when the Lambs were spying on them. And I think her chapter was very interesting just because we get to see some faces that we had seen previously in the other enemy interludes. Because we knew there was kind of a resistance cell. We knew Percy, who is the main bad guy in Arc 1, had joined them because we saw it during his interlude, but we hadn't really seen him since then. Um,
Was the shepherd there in that interlude?
I think someone there might have mentioned Mauer, even if he
Yeah.
wasn't explicitly there. But that's kind of
Yeah.
why I liked that particular enemy interlude, is it's kind of like following up on the previous ones, and it's like, okay, these guys aren't just in the background; they're moving. And then the third enemy interlude we get in Arc 6, which the audiobook has a very like a very heavy content warning before this chapter. It's like this chapter depicts very bad torture, which it
Yeah,
is.
I suppose.
It was a very Black Mirror-y style torture being done on Avis, who eventually escapes and is able to reconnect with Frey and some of the other rebels. Now we can probably home in on Arc 4 to start with, because
Yes.
all
Holy.
three of these arcs, I think, something that's at the forefront of Psy and the reader's mind, and even sometimes the other Lamb's mind. Like Gordon brings it up a few times, as the group dynamics. Psy's worried about people getting older and changing, and the group dynamics changing, and hopefully not falling apart. And they change in very. I think this kind of character conflict escalates very dramatically in 6, and the group dynamic does end up changing very dramatically in 6.
Yeah, I'll throw in also. Bradley's recap is always very useful. I was going through my notes. I was telling him as a little side note, like I sometimes, if I'm listening to Twig while driving, I will do like audio notes, and they come out so butchered. I won't share them all because they're just nonsense. But I was sharing some of them with Bradley, and they're very goofy. But also, it's been a while since I experienced 4. I think I had already done 4 when we last talked in 2 and 3, and then I was sitting, and then I did 5 shortly after. I've been sitting on 6 for a while. I've read like 2.5 books in between. Like I did the first half of 6. Bradley wasn't quite caught up yet because our schedule got a little like off kilter. So I was like, okay, I need to fill in time. I did like several books while waiting for him to get close to me, and then I finished 6. So my time span over here for these arcs is all over the place. But even as I was going through my notes, I was like, holy shit, so many good things happen in these arcs. I will definitely say, if someone was to be like, oh, when does Twig get good? I liked it since arc 1. I
Sam?
think arc 4 and onwards is such a step up. Like this, we're already like hitting like prime Wild Bow story beat levels, in my opinion. Like we're already hitting some really high notes.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, compared to other, like each Wild Bow story, if it has one thing it does the best, what I've always heard about Twig is it probably has his best, like, inter-character dynamics for the main cast. And, the first 3 arcs I feel like are where we're really setting those up. And 4 is where I think we actually start, like, putting weight on those dynamics and stressing
which
them.
So as Bradley mentioned, when 4 is opening up, like Gordon and Cy even have they step aside and they straight up talk about the group losing their edge and how they haven't had like a big W in a while and they really need this Frey situation to go well. And then that kind of carries on to them really wanting to get the mole in arc 6. They're still kind of like trying to regain their footing, I feel like, from the beginning of this arc. And there is just constant beats of them misinterpreting each other or like trying to not to hurt each other's feelings and the impending doom of some of them. Like all of it is just coming together to all the characters feeling pretty uncertain. Percy's back, so Mary has her own issues as well. There's all sorts of shipping wars going on, which we'll definitely get
Oh my
to.
god, the shipping wars.
But yeah, okay. Arc 4, Bradley. What are we gonna talk about?
We'll talk a lot about Cy and Gordon, because that is kind of what's at the forefront, is the group dynamics, and even it doesn't take very long in Arc 4 for them to actually get a trail on Frey, who is who they're chasing this arc, and in this initial encounter where they see Frey's Stitch and they're chasing her down, and this is leading to the encounter where Cy gets his one-on-one conversation with Frey. Even while they're chasing her down, Sai is sprinting his ass off, and he mentions being in the lead of the pack, even in front of Gordon. And obviously, Sai is comically horrible in a fight, but he does actually give himself a lot of credit for being nimble. But even here, he thinks it's kind of notable how far ahead he is of everybody. And a part of him is wondering if he just wants this more than them. And I don't know, maybe there's an element of that because the group dynamics have been so heavily weighing on his mind. There's a fear that, like, if we don't succeed, that's just it. That's it for the group. And if that's it for the group, that's it for all of our lives. And so, I don't know. I just thought it was interesting, like, how much note he was putting on his position relative to the group while running. And it's not even the only time this arc that I think the positions of the lambs relative to each other while they're all moving is going to be relevant because there's a moment later on, for example, where after Sai and Gordon have gotten to talk about the fact Frey offered them an out, and Gordon's like, okay, well, I would have taken the out, Sai, and Sai's like, sorry. After that, their whole group starts moving together, and Sai notices Gordon walking ahead of the pack. He's like a few paces ahead of everybody, and I think it just like says a lot in terms of I don't know the separation he might feel because he would have taken a different choice than Sai, a separation from the group because his impending mortality is closer than the others, and I don't know. There's a lot to look for in terms of just little stuff like how they walk and the formations.
Yeah. Interesting note for sure. I didn't really see how that developed throughout the arc. It kind of goes without saying at this point. Like it's not like a revelatory point to talk
Yeah,
about how much Sai cares about the lambs. Like he pretends like he's not. He's very tsundere about it. This is his everything. And was it? Did we talk about? Was it arc 3 where he found out he almost botched like the revival of one of their siblings also? So like with just how brazen he was with Briggs. So it's
yeah.
like I feel like he's been taking more and more responsibility of getting the team together, and Gordon is now also going through a lot of like issues in these upcoming arcs, um, and a lot of self doubt and some related to Frey, some related to romance, some related to his mortality, where. Sai really has to step up and keep the group together, including the group leader, as it were, which is Gordon. It's also worth noting, I think it's established here that it's been 9 months in Arc 4 since Mary joined. So it always takes me at least, if I remember that correctly, or if I read that correctly. But it always like astounds me how much time has already passed. We're only 4 arcs in, as of what we're discussing there,
Yeah, time
and
moves in this story.
we know kids grow up a lot every year, so that kind of also plants that seed of like them losing their edge and them reaching their expiration dates, as it were.
Now I mentioned this moment I was talking about kind of happens when they're chasing after Frey. They have to split up, and Sai ends up coming across Frey one on one, and they get to have a conversation, which I was very
I
excited about.
was I was gripped by this conversation. It was so well done.
And it's kind of what you're waiting for the moment this arc starts, because whenever you learn that the enemy we are chasing this arc is just a more trained adult getting all of the same doses that Sai is, you're like, oh my god, like we're just facing a bigger, badder version of our main character. So
Yep.
obviously you want to see how a conversation between these two plays out. Um, and so does Sai, because despite his frustration and anxieties all throughout the conversation, he's genuinely excited by this. And there's even a moment when he looks at Genevieve Frey's face and he notices the same thing. He's like, she's liking this. Because I think I don't know, it's very much like Sai's personality to enjoy the challenge, I think, and just the game of what is the other person thinking and what are they are they manipulating me? Am I manipulating them? Um,
I think it's a very layered conversation. Even like when you're reading it on the first read, you can tell, and I feel like he's getting whooped, dude.
oh,
Like he gets some hits in there verbally, but I you really feel like he's getting absolutely spun around
that's the
by
thing.
her.
He had a bunch of different theories on how the conversation would go before it happened, and it doesn't really go any of those ways. She volunteers information she shouldn't. She exposes her motivations, her weaknesses, and she does it giving him nothing in return. Or
Yep.
she does it for
She's
nothing in return.
she's so candid about her vulnerabilities when they're talking. And even I was like, I'm with you, Sai. I didn't think it would go like this, and it made me like her so much. Like she automatically seemed so human and not like, I don't know. You would think she would be like super Psy, where she's like super cocky and over the top and on top of her shit. But she exposes herself so much. But that's also part of her strategy. Like it disarms you so much, both as a reader and Psy. And Psy has to like catch himself a couple times, and like he realizes what's happening. But she's so good at it that it still kind of works.
I'll say
And
it's
I think
kind of a
it's really
fear.
impressive.
Like I don't know. Am I being caught off guard? Is she exposing herself, or is she only pretending to expose herself? Because it's like I don't know. He can't know if she is actually that much worse at playing the game than him, or so much better at playing the game than him that he can't tell the difference.
I
Um,
wager the second, obviously.
I think so.
Um,
And she brings
there's a
up. Oh, what are you saying?
you go.
I was gonna say, like, she brings up this concept of what she calls instinct and ugliness. She says that Sai underestimates the value of instinct and ugliness, and she kind of uses a common analogy of she's like a complete novice who is swinging their sword totally unpredictably can be a worse opponent for a trained fighter than another trained fighter. So I think that's kind of what she's doing is she is playing the part of that untrained opponent, and it just throws Sai off because he's like, if I'm playing against someone who always makes the best possible move, that's easy to predict.
Yeah. Um, couple of interesting points. Also, some of them from like before we get to the conversation, but just I think these are interesting. This is a bit of an interesting world building. I think it's established that they're given a drug that forces them to, after they complete their mission, go back to the academy.
Yes.
So that way, I've always wondered like how they keep them on such a good leash. That is also something that Frey uses to manipulate them. She's like, I can get us out. I can make the cure. I can give you the cure, and you can join me. Very appealing, honestly. And there's a draft of this story where I would have loved that to happen because obviously, I know we're the good guys, but maybe we do the story from the bad guy point of
Yeah.
view. Wink, wink. We also learned that Sai has tried to escape before.
Yeah, that was
Only I
new.
think only Jamie knows. I don't know if anyone else does, but um, Sai says that he came back to be with his friends, but Jamie knows it's a half truth, and it's more that Sai came back because he missed the drug, making him smart and sharp. So that codependence on the drug kind of carries on to arc 6, where he's kind of like on a low dose to begin with, and it's really fucking with his head. But it's also like maybe that's an excuse that like even if he had the drug, would he have been able to handle some of like the social complications happening in arc 6? I think that's left
Yeah.
deliberately ambiguous. But touching on the drug, Frey also mentions that she's jealous of the fact that Sai got to start taking the drug earlier and that he has like a higher ceiling potentially than she does. So, uh, lots of interesting things being done with like how the academy controls these people with drugs, but also that it becomes a part of their personality. They can't really function without them. Um, Later on in the arc, also, or maybe it's in arc 5, Sai mentions that he actually does believe, or at least he says he believes. I think he does of in the academy's goal to like use this drug to someday invent the perfect brain that can actually advance technology and society to where it needs to be. So it's interesting. Like Sai believes in this project that is him, and I wonder if it's like on a moral level where it's like we're doing all this questionable stuff, but when we make that perfect brain, maybe we can cure every disease, maybe we can do this and that. Or maybe it's a form of self validation in like the things I'm going through and what they're creating through me are important and will be important. So even after I die at the age of like, I don't know, 16 or whatever his expiration date is, probably less, at least I will have contributed to creating this perfect brain. Um,
Yeah, I really liked hearing this from Sai. Just because I don't know, whenever our characters are working for something as evil as the Academy, you kind of need a like some kind of in-world justification for the readers of like, okay, why are we following protagonists who are working for such an evil, organization? And the obvious answer is, I mean, they don't really have a choice. The Academy is their life. It decides if they live, breathe, whatever. And so Frey in this conversation, and this is kind of her main gambit I think she's doing across this, is she offers them an out. She's like, the Academy sucks. You probably know it sucks. I know you need them to live. I can keep you guys alive at least as long as the Academy can. Maybe longer. You would be free. And obviously, I mean, there is the counterpoint of like, would we really be free or would we just be dependent on a different person now? So even outside of Sai talking about believing in the mission, I think there's a reason for him to say no. But that's the thing. He kind of talks about the confidence he has in Hale's mission and the Academy one day being able to create a better world. And I was kind of at that point where he says this stuff, and I wasn't sure if he really believed it or if he just had to tell Frey something.
Yeah.
Because she makes a very compelling case for, like, yeah, why wouldn't you fucking defect if she can give you what the Academy is giving you to stay alive? And so at first I thought maybe Sai just had to come up with something to tell himself. I didn't know if he believed in this mission as much as he said he did. He does kind of double down on this later in Arc 6, which we can talk about when we get to it, in a way that makes me think maybe he does really truly just believe in this mission. But I mean, obviously, I think every single chapter of the story that goes by gives more reasons to pull the lambs away from the Academy, and so at a certain point, we're gonna reach a point where that chain is gonna have to break or something.
Yeah. I also believe he believes in it, and like I was mentioning, maybe it is because it justifies his own short existence in a way, and like it's faith, but not in a god, faith in a mission, which is all he can really have at this point. So, especially in a setting like this, right? Um, so what other interesting things are there in Arc 4? Well, the main, I guess, like gambit or like plot point of Arc 4 is that the water gets poisoned and everyone's left sterile unless the Academy pitches in, which they won't. So it becomes a huge hostage demand. Um,
Yeah, and the thing is, in a way, it kind of gives the Lamb the freedom that Frey was offering them anyway. Because this entire arc, they were freaking the fuck out that they're like, if we don't catch her in the next 2 hours, we're gonna have to get on this train and go all the way back to Radam and get our fucking dose. When she eventually releases her chemicals into the water, which essentially is just dosing everybody with the leash chemicals that the lambs and the other experiments have, they, I think in Arc 5, when they're doing all the military shit, Sai remarks on the fact that he's like, it was kind of freeing in a way because he's like, now every water source in every town has this chemical. We're not chained to specifically the academy in the town we came from. And I think she talks a little bit about her motivations for doing this because this entire arc they're trying to figure out like what the hell could her plan actually be. And the thing is, these leash chemicals were not her plan. This was something the Academy was already going to do in an attempt to control the populace. The Academy genuinely was planning to just poison everybody and make it so the antidote was in their city's water supplies, so everybody just has to do what the Academy says.
she knew that because she worked at the Academy, right? Like
Yeah.
she kind of left with that information, anyways.
And so her whole philosophy is like this she's like, I know this is terrible and I know y'all hate me. She's like, this was going to happen anyway. By doing it sooner, the fallout is going to be 100 times less bad than if the Academy got to have more time to better prepare themselves and sink their hooks in. And she's like, this is going to happen at a time when people are already pissed at the Academy. So maybe this is what we need to actually start the revolution. So I don't know. People obviously hate her for triggering this, but she's like, if I didn't exist, it would have triggered anyway, and it would have happened at a worse time for everybody. Which is just, I think it's a really interesting angle to take for her.
Yeah, she's very clearly my favorite antagonist up to this point. It's interesting. Like, part of the reason Tyler stopped reading is because it was like, yeah, I was reading it, but like we got to that Percy guy. I was like, we have Jack Slash, and then we have this guy. I was like, Percy is not this story. He's Jack Slash at all. I would say the equivalent would be Frey, but I've actually since changed my mind again. I think the Jack Slash is introduced in Arc 6.
Oh yes.
Um, but I digress. Are there any other, in the interest of like keeping pace, are there any other interesting points in Arc 4 here that you wanted to mention? Because I do think like the stuff at the Girls' Academy is whatever. There's the Wendy and Warren stuff, which is okay and good, but I don't have like too much to say on that either.
Me neither. That's
Um,
the thing. We do get some world building here because this town has its own academy, and there's a lot we learn about, like, this academy is an all girls academy, and we learn stuff like the head of this academy, I think, actually was working with Frey because they had the idea of, like, oh, well, if what she's doing cripples the academies in the other town, it makes my academy look better, and then I can climb up and I can get in good with the nobles, which. Um, like that offers some very cool world building. Like you said, I don't know if I have enough to say about that
and
compared to the big
like,
beats of the arc.
yeah, compared to the other arcs, I also think this is the weakest interlude. This was the assassin interlude, the
Yeah,
not Scorcher. What's his name?
I know there was like melancholy. They were called the Four Humors. I don't remember all their names
Yeah,
exactly.
a gunman.
Yeah, he was the sniper who shot. He fucking shot Sai.
There was I will say there's some funny bits when they're breaking into the academy, and that episode where Sai gets shot is very like very tense, and I like how it kind of transitions into a bit of a flashback. Also, um, we can come back to some of this, but let's do Arc 5.
Yes, because Arc 5 is kind of our military conflict. We get to see what the Academy is like in full scale war, which is really fun. In a previous enemy interlude, which would have been Reverend Mowers, because we got to see a little
Yeah,
bit of his time in the war. And even the tiny snippets you and I saw from back then, we were like, oh my god,
horrifying.
like what does the battlefield actually look like? Um,
Horrifying.
and it's pretty fucking horrifying because aside from all the normal stuff you have to worry about in war, you have to worry about the fact that the enemies can just kind of recycle soldiers as many times as they want, or the entire battlefield could be filled with invisible gases that kill you, or any number of other things.
We do get to see some of that here as well. It kind of the arc kind of starts with us in a different town, like you mentioned. We're undercover now. We're at a was it a normal school or another academy?
This was like this was kind of it was a school inside one of the towns that the rebellion was in, and it's not an official academy school because obviously everyone here is against the academy. I think it just had whatever people had defected from the academy teaching it because that's all the knowledge they really have. And Lillian is hating it because she's like, I know more than all my teachers do, but she's
Which is
undercover.
hilarious. We also get her kissing Sai to like keep undercover in one of
Dude,
these early scenes,
that was my
and thus
first note.
begins.
That was my first note for this arc was Lillian and Sai kiss with a bunch of like sobbing and laughing emojis.
um, Man, I've been picking up that vibe that has definitely been there of like the flirtatious actual crush, actual liking of Lillian and
Yes.
Sai, but it's at this point it's basically official. And is this the arc where also he has that scene where he's helping Mary change? So we're really playing at these
I was
cards.
about to say because that scene where Mary kind of gives the first, where it's that scene with Mary and Sai together. That's like the first chapter of Arc 6, but even
Yeah,
before that chapter, I think we have been ramping up the Sai and Lillian teasing, which like aside from all the kind of big moments in the arcs, I always like to write down a bunch of fun characterization moments. So if we have time later, I have like some really just fun ones between not just Sai and Lillian, but like Sai and everybody, honestly. But that's the
that
thing.
sounds great.
They've definitely been ramping up the Sai and Lillian teasing in a very, very fun way.
Which and to be clear, Cy and Mary was always also very obvious. And also the budding love triangle because Gordon was also involved as early as when Mary first joined the team. Sai wouldn't like outwardly say that he was annoyed that Gordon would like link up with Mary better than he could sometimes, but it was very clear that that's how he felt. That they had like a bond that is just very different than Sai and Mary's, and he wasn't really sure what to make of it.
Which, you know what? I think a big part of this story, just from what I've seen, especially because between arcs 4 through 6, we kind of progress over the course of like a year in these characters' lives. And that is a year when people kind of start going through puberty and getting their first crushes. Um, and I feel like this story is doing a good job at portraying some of the struggles of puberty because I feel like very often, whenever a TV show wants to do a puberty episode, usually the angle they take is, oh my god, I'm getting hair in all these places I wasn't before, and oh my body hurts, and oh I have pimples, and oh I'm so awkward. And that's usually how they portray the struggles of puberty. But I feel like what Sai is going through is something that might be more relatable, which is there are these kind of moments where he's noticing, I don't know, everybody else looks different than they did a few months ago, and I look the same. And because of that, he feels a little insecure because, I don't know, you don't want to get left behind by your peers. And then that compounds these issues when, I don't know, he sees that Mary and Gordon have a lot of fun together. And then he has to wonder, I don't know, why is that happening? And so I don't know, it's just kind of a background tension that flavors every interaction Sai has himself or sees with the other lambs.
It's I would also say puberty in this story is also linked to like humanity, where it's kind of like the lambs have always been weapons and they grew up knowing they're weapons, so there was like a bit of a disconnect between them and normal kids. But
Yeah.
as they kind of gain more sentience about the world and their limited time, they grow more and more human and have more and more human needs, and part of that is romance. And that is kind of the equivalent of the normal puberty tropes that you would see in this story.
Yeah.
So, villain of this arc was Cynthia?
Yeah, which it might not be fair to call her the villain of the arc because
Yeah,
she's technically like she is who they're after, and she is ruling the town that I mean they're fighting against in this arc. But I guess they're more kind of going against these four assassins that are on their tail.
yeah, and like they're going to the ball, they're spying on Cynthia, they're like narrowly escaping. This is the arc where they also work with that one guy. Like he's like a commander of the town that they have like dirt on. Their interactions are really funny, but he comes in like clutch sometimes. Like
He's
he
sometimes he's a pretty cool guy. Because this thing, this arc is kind of like half in the rebel town and then half in the academy controlled base. But we also in our group have along for the ride Gladys Shipman, which was Gordon's crush that he got when we were in the bowels fighting this
yeah,
Sub Rosa experiment.
arc 3.
So the fact she actually came along for a job, I was like, oh damn, all right.
I was kind of bummed because I was kind of hoping she'd be part of the crew. She can be pretty funny, and like having a normal human there is interesting because Lillian's a lamb at this point. Um, it was not long lived. Maybe we'll see Shipman later, but I have a feeling we won't be seeing much of her
I
for
don't
the
think we'll
rest
be
of the
seeing
story.
much of her. There is a scene in Arc 6 where they kind of oversee Gordon's breakup with
Break up,
Shipman,
yeah,
which I don't know. We can talk about that in Arc 6. That's where all
yeah,
the
yeah,
that's where the shipping wars take place.
yeah. Well,
But
this arc is real wars, the less important kinds.
this is real wars. Everybody in this rebel, and the portion of the arc where they're still in the rebel town, everybody's kind of split up. They have their own duties. Like Lillian is kind of in their school, figuring out what they know. Gordon and Mary are the ones actually planting these flesh rearranging spiders under the houses at night. Um,
Jesus Christ,
I
man.
know it was horrifying. Now, one commenter on one of these chapters, it's spelled Ewnson. I don't know how to pronounce it. Osen. They brought up that this story in particular is kind of fun because the structure of the arc and the strengths of the group kind of depend on how the characters get split up.
Mm.
Because like in this arc, we end up with like Sai, Jamie, and Helen, which isn't really their powerhouses, and even if they get hurt, they don't really have Lillian there to patch them up. which ends up being kind of a big fucking deal because when Sai gets shot, there's even a moment where he's like, "Damn it! If we had Lily in here, this is way less of a problem." So they are like, it's just kind of a fun change of pace from Worm and Pact, where Taylor and Blake are kind of one man wrecking crews. Like, if they don't already have a solution for a conflict, they're probably going to figure one out before it's
Okay,
over.
I'll give you Taylor. Blake is a boy failure. Like he's barely doing.
He's
He's
clinging
barely
on, though. He's
surviving.
clinging on.
It's more like Blake will never have a good ally, so you just have to pray that he can figure it out.
He's a punching bag that the enemies punch until they die. Um,
Apologies, he does have Evan. That is one good ally he has, but I
But that's a
digress.
fun thing about this story is kind of depending on how we get split up, you have different strengths and weaknesses. And in this arc, as these particular three are going through town, I think the fact that they don't have anyone to really fight with or to mend wounds with is a big deal. Because Sai gets shot, and it fucking hurts. And he spends a lot of time describing how much it hurts, and it kind of leads to a funny moment. He before this happened, he had an idea that his pain tolerance might be higher than average because his appointments are so fucking painful. And he's like, oh my god, I've had to do that so much and so often that maybe this won't be that bad. He gets shot and he's like, no, it didn't help at all. It's that bad. It really fucking hurts. Um,
Right. I said this happened last arc. No, yeah, it was this arc. Actually, was the last interlude Warren's interlude? Actually, I think we got that mixed up. This
yes.
is the one with the shooter. The Warren interlude was good. Actually,
I like that one better.
let me back that one up. I do have some things to say about that. I just thought it was interesting to see like the idea of a family that does not approve of their child working for the academy and doing body modifications and stuff, but also the whiplash of like, yeah, let's go out for drinks. Oh shit, they like pushed me down a like off a building, my brain splattered on the ground, they stole the money that my family gave me, and now I'm in a jar. Like what the fuck was that was just insane. And it's all just for the henchmen of an Ark's villain.
I know it's horrifying how easy it is to end up in a situation like that in this universe because I mean I think the Academy has been known to grab people that no one will miss if they're kind of found in the street. So
Yeah. Um, One of the mid arc face-offs in this I thought was pretty interesting. Was it with Melancholy where she's threatening to gas them? And
yes,
honestly, she's getting kind of troped where it's like, just fucking kill them, stop talking. They talk for so long. Like Wildbow loves his yapathons. But what is cool about that scene is that Helen is like crawling through the mud like a weird snake, like
yeah.
moving so slow that she's not being noticed. And then she hits her with the classic Helen boa constrictor attack.
So
To
they
get
do
out
end
of
up
this.
making it through that. It's pretty tense and it's kind of funny because at one point, I think when they're kind of hiding from her under a car in the mud, Sai is he's remarking on the fact that he has blood dripping down his butt crack because he's like, here's the thing. He's like, I've been mortally wounded before, and I can deal with that, but it is impossible to feel badass or in control of a situation when there is blood dripping down your ass crack.
That was a very fun tangent. Wildbow just moves different. His humor, I don't know what to expect from this man sometimes. So we meet a commander of a regiment that they're working with, who's very cocky, by the way. And I feel like at this point, it was really dawning on me what this story was kind of becoming. And they're building up to the academy that thinks they're so invincible that they're not taking the town's militias very seriously. And what do you make of that? Do you think that's an oversight, or am I underestimating the academy that they have this more under control than I think? Because the Lambs seem to think that the academy is fumbling a little bit. Is that safe to say? So it's like either they are also underestimating their overlords, or the academy is really kind of like not taking this threat as seriously as it should, and that's going to be their downfall. Like, what's your read on that?
I think that is kind of what's happening. I think Sai has a somewhat accurate read, and I think there is something kind of poetic about like the organization that is they are too big to fail, actually failing because they believe they can't fail. I think there's something kind of fun about that, depending on how it's pulled off. And I think it's pulled off in a very fun way here, where I don't totally understand how this worked, and I especially don't understand how it works because Sai tries to play a game with the general, and the general doesn't play the game correctly, which pisses Sai off. So, but Sai kind of makes a series of predictions on what the enemy is going to do. Like the enemy is going to attack this gate. The enemy is going to catch us off guard because our forces weren't here. The general's going to lose this battle, and I don't know. He's kind of spot on with a lot of these because I think he's able to make these predictions based on that philosophy of. I mean, they're going to hit you guys where you guys aren't expecting because you're so confident they aren't going to be able to do anything to that. Like for example, I think a lot of the Academy's strategy, whenever this battle does break out and bullets are flying and gas is going, so much of what had the Academy so confident is that the way the Academy wins wars is that they can create problems that only the Academy can fix. Sai even talks a little bit about military history, where he's like, over time, they just got so good with parasites and poisons and gases that it's like you just don't have a choice to fight them. And so, if the Academy is relying on gases and stuff like that to win the fight for them, and they throw these gases down all over the battlefield, and then the rebels come in with like 400 soldiers who are completely immune to all Academy gases and poisons and leeches and stuff. I mean, that's kind of what's fucking them in this fight. And so, I don't know. I think Sai was right in that the areas the Academy isn't trying to shore up their defenses because they think they are already too powerful there is where they kind of got fucked.
I guess we'll have to see. We can't forget that they've put the ticking time bomb, the barber, which is some crazy experiment that's in the depths of the Academy. Now, I've been thinking about that experiment and how Wild Bow stories go. Which arc is that experiment breaking out and we have to stop it? Is it the penultimate arc or the last arc?
See, what do you think? I would think it would be near the end of the story, but the way this story is progressing, pacing wise, it'll probably happen way sooner than that. I don't know if I can truly predict what'll happen.
I've been bad at predicting this story, but I know how things tend to go. I'm gonna say the super secret experiment is the second to last arc that it's unveiled, and we have to stop it. And it's still going to be rampaging, or its fallout still going to be happening in the final arc. But the last antagonist will be either the Duke or whatever like royal we meet that is maybe above him but relevant to the story.
Yeah, some shit like that.
The Duke's given aura, though, man. I feel like that's a good last antagonist, just saying, from what we've seen so far, if that's where we want to go.
Actually fighting him or someone like him who has been modified in those ways could be badass.
It could be
disastrous. This like Brigadier General guy.
Yes.
He has an interesting personality. He's very surprisingly not condescending to the lambs. I think in their very first encounter, Sai is like, he's the first person that has been able to take us in stride the first time they meet us, even among Academy people.
If I have my quote right here, he says he's the third adult to ever understand them truly.
Hale
the first being Hale. Right? I'm assuming adult number 2 is Frey.
Maybe that's kind of where my mind was going because he doesn't say.
He does not say, but it's wild that this guy is number 3 because he's very cocky about the war efforts, but he is actually like very cool about taking the children seriously, even though he's not taking their words to heart. But it's not because he's looking down on them as individual or their work. He is just that confident in what the Academy's doing and then like their strategy.
Like he might come across kind of condescending at first, and I feel like it might feel that way in large part because we're in Sai's perspective, and that's kind of how he interprets softness and niceness from authority figures. But I mean, at the end of the day, the Brigadier does genuinely consider their ideas, even if he doesn't come to the same conclusions or enact their plans. He does actually seem to think them through and ask questions about the ideas. He doesn't categorically write off everything Sai suggests just because he's a kid. And when Sai makes one of those predictions about an upcoming battle, the Brigadier is quick to tell Sai that he doesn't disagree. And when the Brigadier was wrong about one of those predictions and Sai was right, he isn't shy about going up to Sai and admitting that he was right and he got a win. And he actually offers to reward him for it. He's like, do you have any suggestions on a plan to do? But and this all sounds like good stuff, but it pisses Sai off. And in 5.10, he finally is really frank in his mind because he's like, I can't figure out why I'm so pissed off. And he's like, you know what? I just respect jerks more. That's it. Um,
Well, here's the thing. I think also Sai doesn't like when normal people get them. He did because he didn't. He was very against Lillian even being a true part of the group. I think he just does not like normies, man. They don't fucking get it, and like he doesn't internalize it that way. But he is jealous, or maybe jealous is not the right word, but he creates a distance between him and like non-experimented normies. But when it comes to like nerding out with Dog and Catcher, yeah, man, that's family. They're fam. Like he's even like not that close to the other orphanage kids in,
oh
in
no.
comparison. So
But that's the thing. Sai, he kind of drops this mind to himself that he respects jerks more, and he does kind of have an aversion to kindness that even Jamie remarks on verbally in this arc. Jamie brings up the Brigadier General, and he very upset when he brings this up, talks about this doctor who, in order to survive, Sai had to basically pretend he was a mortally wounded child. That doctor brought him and I think Gordon and Mary into a tent, saved his life, and then they ended up killing the doctor to get away. And obviously Jamie doesn't like that because he has our big heart of the bunch, and he's like, that is a doctor who selflessly went out of his way to save the life of a child and was kind to you, and you guys killed him. And Sai, not the Sai, Jamie asks Sai, like, why are you the hardest against people who show you the most kindness? And when we talked about arcs 2 and 3, I think I kind of had a moment talking about this where I think part of Sai gets pissed off at kindness from outsiders because he doesn't view it as genuine. Especially in arc 2, every time Sai was nice to someone in that arc, it was because he wanted something, and the moment he got it, he stopped being nice. And so I think that's maybe the image he had of people like Lacey, is that no matter how nice they were to him, it couldn't really be genuine. And so he kind of elaborates on that here when Jamie is pressing them on like, why do you lash out so hard when people are nice to you? And Sai says, I'm suggestible like you said. My oldest memories are of days and weeks of people consoling me and telling me everything's going to be so fine, and I'm brave, and I'm kind, and they're going to give me things. I just have to stop crying and stop struggling. And so he's like, the entire beginning of my life was just kindness and then unbearable pain, and then kindness and then unbearable pain. And he's like, you can do that type of conditioning even to a slug, and it's going to leave a lasting impression. If people are kind, horribleness follows. And so he's like, I'm done with that. And I don't know. I was kind of already thinking along those lines, and it seems like Sai is at least aware enough to know why he reacts the way he does to people being that way.
what a beautifully broken little boy. It's just uh
But yes, the rebellion ends up doing better than the Brigadier General bargained for, and so whenever we move into Arc 6, this war is not over. But before we move on to Arc 6, I think the other relevant thing to talk about here is the fact that in Arc 4, obviously, uh, kind of gave the lambs a way out. Sai said no on behalf of the group, and Gordon, when they are alone, kind of comes to
okay.
him and is like, Sai, I would have said yes. And,
Bradley,
oh,
despite me not remembering his name for 4 out of the 6 arcs we've read so far, for whatever reason, last time I was like, Jamie's easily my other favorite character. Gordon, I think, is just maybe like he's up there with Sai at this point. He's
yes.
Duke. I think Gordon is so interesting, actually. One, sorry, I just want to throw that in there. What were you gonna say about Gordon? I'm just prefacing that I have some stuff to say about Gordon as well.
Just the way that that feeling evolves, that he would have said yes to defecting, because now in Arc 5, what it becomes here is obviously Sai isn't very confident in the general's ability to win this skirmish, and so Gordon just straight up brings up the idea of what if we just commit treason? We just defect, we either kill him or make him lose the battle, we join the rebels, fuck it, right? That chemical that we need to live, the leash chemical, it's already everywhere. If we run away from the academy, we'll be fine. And they even put it for a vote with the group, and some people are more cool with it than others. I think Mary was fine defecting with Gordon. Jamie was like, dude, this is fucking nuts. And Sai ends up being the tiebreaker. He ends up because Sai ends up being the one to say, no, we're not going to defect. We're going to try to do what we set out to do. But in the moment Sai breaks that tie, he is looking at Gordon and he sees Gordon's chin raise just a fraction. And Sai says, I almost immediately changed my vote just seeing that. Because he wants to give Gordon this. He just genuinely believes it's not the correct way to go, but he's like, I get it. He's like, Gordon is deteriorating. He was the closest to his expiration date already 9 months ago, and it's only getting closer.
Which we learned what Gordon is. We've known that like Jamie's this weird caterpillar brain host, and that Mary's like a super well trained cloned and conditioned in a certain way. And Sai's all about like the chemicals they put in his brain. Gordon was made from like the body parts of 26 people Frankenstein together.
He's like a
So
chimera.
he's a chimera, and like his body has like a lot of stitches as a result. Um, but he also feels phantom pain and memories from those people, because his brain is also like a lot of different brains going on, and like he feels like muscle twitches that his body's used to feel, whatever. But he's also losing his hand-eye coordination as the story goes on, so he is actively deteriorating in front of us.
Oh yeah, and it gets even worse in Arc 6. His heart starts acting up, which
Jeez, man,
maybe we can move on to Arc 6.
Oh man, hold on. I have like okay with the doctor thing real quick.
Yeah,
I mentioned last time it's like we haven't really seen them kill an innocent before. Well, here like not an innocent might be quote unquote, but like they've never killed like a non straight up op, like a someone actively gunning from them.
yeah.
They talked about doing it, but we hadn't seen it on screen.
Because when
So them
running from the
killing the doctor here was pretty
assassins,
shocking.
when running from the assassins, Jamie had to shoot one of them, and even when that happens, Sai's like, number one, this isn't your first kill, and number two, what the fuck were you supposed to do? He's trying to shoot us, but like he's like that. The killing this doctor has such a different weight to killing an assassin who's actively trying to kill you. This is a doctor who walked onto an active battlefield and saw a dying kid and went out of his way to save the kid.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal. I will also say like the conflict once there's like the calm before the storm, and then they just get swarmed by Frankenstein's basically
Oh
like
yeah.
stitches, and it really feels like a Lord of the Ring like swarm of people hitting gates, and it got like a lot more intense than I thought it would. And then we get little Cynthia interlude, sort of.
Sort
It's
of.
also with the assassins. Sanguine.
Yeah, and this one wasn't. I mean, this one wasn't the most
Yeah.
entertaining.
Yeah, I think this is my least favorite
Kind
for
of just
sure.
providing more world building for the rebellion side of things. I think.
Yeah. All right, Arc 6. What do we got going on in Arc 6, Bradley?
This is kind of where I think we hit the gas on everything we were building up in Arc 4 and 5 in terms of, oh my god, everyone's getting older, personalities are changing, relationship dynamics are strained. So I'm trying to see what I wrote here. It's kind of like we know Gordon's kind of ahead of the pack here, and we witness his first breakup at the start where they're all spying
Yeah.
on him and Shipman, and it seems like it went as about as well as it could, I guess. But them witnessing this breakup, I think, triggers something in most of the lands
Yes.
except Sai, because Sai seems to be very oblivious, whether it's on purpose or not on purpose when it comes to relationship stuff. It's maybe he doesn't want to think about it, or maybe he really is that oblivious. But later on, regarding this breakup, Jamie says, Sai, Gordon has just found out what the rest of us have been finding out, which is the fact that there's not going to be any dating outside the Lambs. Realistically, our dating pool is confined to this 6 or 7 people. Like, as soon as Shipman got a look into what our world is really like, her and Gordon could not last, and it's not going to last with other people. Um, which I just thought was really interesting because that probably does put the gas on everybody to be like, oh my god, if our only candidates really are each other, maybe that's kind of what birthed what Jamie was saying about like if there's something you want to say, you just got to say it now because you don't know how long life is going to be or how it's going to turn out.
I mean, Shipman kicked off the shipping wars, and let's jump ahead. Let's just get all the romance out the way. It's a very big part of the last parts of the arc. But at the beginning, it's Mary and Sai. Mary and Sai are flirting. Sai is a little jealous that she likes Gordon. She does kind of like Gordon. She does also like Sai. So it's like it's hard to say where she's landing right
And
now.
up till this point, I've been very much on like the Psy Mary train since arc 1, but I don't know, things are shifting, and I feel like what kind of kicks off their fun conversation here is a comedic moment where they're at the mouse hideout, which the world building of the mice is kind of fun, where these kids in the
Yeah.
slums like carve mice into walls where safe spots are and like foxes where they're not. But they're in a mice hideout, and Sai notices some of the guys kind of acting weird in the kitchen, and he walks over to where they are, and he realizes there's a gap in the curtain where the girls are changing. And he kind of chases them off, but he catches a glimpse of Mary's back or whatever, like her bare shoulder,
And her
and
23 knives, the
yeah, and
perfect woman.
he does immediately cross the room to close the curtain, but the way he described it was like I felt utter paralyzing shock, but it wasn't unpleasant, and I'm like, yeah, that's probably the way I would have described it at his age. But then it's funny because he walks over, and she immediately thanks Sai for closing the curtain, and he's like, wait, I mean, if you knew the curtain was open, why didn't you just close it? And she's like, I saw you looking though. And he starts going, and she starts mocking him back, going,
There's
uh,
also a moment where like Sai's whispering like, "Are we okay?" And then she just like yells the answer right in front of Jamie, just to like embarrass Sai some more. So there's yeah, lots of cute things going on there, right? Um, Meanwhile, Lillian has been warming up to Sai, and like she likes the whole bully thing is working a little bit. She's falling for him. How do you feel Sai feels about Lillian at this point? Because like it's not. I feel like it's less vocal than Mary, but
um, I think before this conversation with Mary, I don't know if Sai was actively thinking about his feelings for Lillian that much because in this conversation, Mary's like, Sai, Lillian likes being teased. You are the person who teases her. And he seems kind of shocked when he hears that. And then from every scene after this conversation onwards, he teases her like 10 times harder. I think so. Before this point, I don't know if he actively knew he liked her. I think what is going on with Sai is a little bit of indecisiveness, where I feel like he
yeah.
kind of has this half crush on Mary and Lillian, and everyone else is very aware that he does too and is trying to goad him towards making a choice because Sai, these group dynamics you're worried about, part of what is making them strained is you not being able to say what you're actually thinking or feeling. I feel like Mary tries to get him to do that, and Jamie tries to get him to do that several times this arc, even before
So
his big confession.
so all right, next layer, right? We got Gordon and Mary. Gordon clearly also likes Mary, and I think Mary does like Gordon. And
Yes.
if you ask me, this is the pairing. That if you want to know where Mary goes, it's with Gordon, not Sai. In my
It
opinion,
would
they
make
have like a
sense.
special dynamic. They are like they're lockstep. They're very competent together. It's been built up since she's joined. I think it works for me. I like it. I like how that feels. And then the final secret layer, it is Jamie comes in from the top rope and goes, I mean, it's got me considering you too, Sai. Basically, like I had to reread that section multiple times because it was like It's a very low key confession at first, and then it becomes very like focal in the next like two or three chapters. Um, but yeah, Jamie likes Psy, which is one that I didn't pick up on. I'm sure a lot of people did, but that completely throws Psy off his game.
That's the thing. Sai had already been strained about these dynamics, and Mary and Jamie up to this point have been trying to goad him into figuring out his feelings because if he can figure out his feelings, it'll help everybody else figure out theirs, and that helps these group dynamics Sai's been so stressed about. But the thing is, that after Jamie confesses, Sai stops thinking about this stuff. Like, literally, if you go back to when Jamie confesses, like, pretty much like the very next paragraph, Sai says, I couldn't afford distractions, and he just starts thinking about Avis and the Duke and their mission. And
But he is constantly distracted in the next few chapters. Not constantly, but it comes up a lot.
yeah, I won't
No.
say he doesn't think about it at all, but he very clearly does not want to think about it.
Yeah, it's more that like, but there are multiple paragraphs or like lines of him being like, "Me and Jamie are awkward now. Jamie didn't look at me. Why didn't he look at me? He would have smiled there." There's so much of that, and it's like, why can't I figure it out? If I had the Wyvern serum through my brain right now, I bet I could figure it out. That's where I was like, maybe even not. Maybe even with that, your social charm would not get you out of the situation side because you don't know what to do and no one would really know what to do. And your world is suddenly constricted where, yeah, it's between the six of y'all. And the final layer is that Helen has the Duke. So, joke.
Yeah,
Dark
dude,
joke.
I don't know, those little interactions that happen from this point on that you were mentioning, those add all the tension in this arc. Even in an arc that ends with like a battle between a angel winged scientist and a duke in a arena of fire, that's awesome. But where all the tension is coming from are these little interactions because, like, for example, when Sai gets the idea to scratch the glass and, you know, hurt the echolocation of the ghosts, he looks over at Jamie and Jamie sees his idea and kind of smiles at Sai because, oh my god, what a good idea. And then stops smiling and looks away, and Sai's like, don't fucking stop smiling and stop looking away, please. And the one that really gets me is when they're actually in Claret Hall with the Duke, kind of like going up the stairs, cornering Avis. There's a moment where Sai gets knocked over, and he puts his hand on like the stair rails to kind of lift himself up, and he's already in the motion of lifting himself up when he looks out and sees Jamie was actually offering his hand to lift Sai up. And at this point, Sai's already basically standing up, and he's like, I fucking regretted it. He's like, if I could go back 2 seconds in time and take Jamie's hand instead, I would, because he saw the look on Jamie's face, and he's like, Jamie's thinking I don't want to touch his hand anymore because he confessed to me, and that's not it. And like, that's just one or two examples. There's like a half dozen little moments like this where, I don't know, Sai is just wants people to know how much he cares about them.
Yeah. Um, the one that gets me is their little exchanges before they go do their last procedures near the end of the
Oh,
arc. But we'll close off this
yeah, yeah, yeah.
arc discussion with that. Um, okay, the Duke. Whoa!
The
What an
characterization
introduction,
on this
dude.
guy.
He is he. How far is he up the royal line? I kind of like forgot. Like he's very high, but he's not the highest, right?
I think dukes are like I think like the king and their family, like the like kings and princes are up there. I think dukes are like the next tier down from kings.
So we could meet more powerful people in the story yet. But I like now there's like a dynamic between this particular character and the Lambs that I kind of want him to be maybe the main antagonist or something if we are going down that route.
I don't know. The duke is very fascinating. He comes in because obviously we're
Do you
kind of
remember? Do you remember how he's physically described? Because like he's basically this human blonde god. Did they compare him to like a trading card? Like, not a trading card, like a playing card? Because I vaguely remember that.
yeah. I think he said he looks like a real life version of like the face cards in a deck of playing
Which
cards.
is just like, what the fuck does that
So
mean?
like
Like,
he's tall. I think he has very broad shoulders, very
yeah,
obviously, but also his torso is big because we find out that I think his lungs have been modified for allowing him to speak to large crowds all at the
Yeah.
same time, which was kind of
So interesting.
that's the thing is I'm like in a world where biology is running rampant, the class of people that already think they're better than everybody can now literally make themselves better than people. They can make themselves stronger and faster, more beautiful, and that's the thing. When he first walks out, Sai describes the way he carries himself kind of like a 16-year-old boy. He's not really concerned with how people are looking at him. He's just kind of diving on whatever he sees that fancies him. And it kind of seems like a juvenile way to be. And so when he's described that way, I'm kind of primed for him to behave kind of like a celestial dragon in One Piece, like St. Charlos. Like, oh, maybe he's going to be
Yeah.
some spoiled brat. But then he actually becomes terrifying because you learn he's actually very, very keen and smart and powerful and picks up on subtext, and you can't really hide stuff from him.
And the way he's cruel is very like targeted and effective when it needs to be. There's a scene near the end of the arc where he fires someone. He's like, I really didn't want to do that. I really hate doing that.
No, it's not just someone either. It is Briggs.
Yeah, wait, it's Briggs,
Because
right? Yeah.
Briggs was like he was like the head of this academy. There was a point in time where Briggs was the most terrifying person in this story,
Yes.
and then casually the Duke says, just send him to the bowels to be test fodder," and then he leans over to one of his assistants. He's like, make sure to let him say bye to his family, give his family enough money that they'll be able to stay on their feet, like all this stuff. It's so mundane.
She got sent to the bowels. Fuck.
Yeah, like send him down there for testing fodder. But I'm like, the fact that it's so mundane for him, he's like,
Yeah.
I'm like, let him go home and say bye to his family. Like, I'm like, holy shit.
But yeah, he is very creepy on how he interacts with the lands. He touches
Especially,
whoever he wants.
oh my
Helen.
god, when he like he puts his eyes on Helen, which already I'm already like getting queasy, and then it says he like runs his thumb over her lips or something, and I'm like, we need
And
this guy dead.
Sai is like super computering to like, how can I make it so he doesn't take her right now? Like I need to buy time, and he does it. Um, but Sai does end up making a mistake down the line. But I also want to talk about a part of this arc, which is hanging out with Dog and Catcher, man. They're so
Dude,
cute.
we got so much out of them.
Mary nerding out with them also so cute.
Yeah, I'm trying to find my notes because we actually kind of have a day out on the town with them, and like Catcher's a man of few words. We've hardly seen him at all this story, and even less of that of him speaking. So everything he actually says or does is giving us a lot, you know. And so it's fun with Mary walking next to Catcher because, like, obviously she's gonna be interested in him. It's a big scary guy with weapons, and so she's asking him about it. And I think his first response is like, "You and me haven't talked before," not wanting to engage with her. But then she actually impresses him with like knowledge on the weapon and stuff, and he actually hands it over. He's like, "You know what? You're all right."
I like so Dog can't talk, but Dog does like tattletale on Catcher a couple times. Um and like Catcher or Gordon have to be the one translating it, and
Oh,
it's like
yeah, because
it's very cute.
Mary's asking him what all of his different torture instruments do, and he's describing all of them. And then there's one of them. She's like, "What does that one do?" And he's like, "Maybe you'll find out on this mission." Trying to kind of keep his air of like cool and mysteriousness. And then Dog makes a bunch of noises, and then he's like, "All right, fine. I don't know what it does. I just thought it looked really intimidating."
I did not expect these guys to be this cute, but they
They
are.
were pretty funny. And then there's like a moment because a war is going on, they have to constantly go through these checkpoints, which the lambs hate. And they're going up to a checkpoint and they're getting ready to search them. And the catcher is like, "Don't fucking touch me." And they're like, "But it's our orders to search you." And catcher just goes, "Shove your orders." And they all walk through. And then Sai walks up to like walk beside him. And he's like, "Catcher, man, we don't hang out enough."
That's great. That's like, what are you talking about, dude? And as always, Gordon is just so good at, connecting with the other experiments and like finding that common ground. And everyone loves Gordon and everyone respects him. That is just like his charm. But you just know in the back of his mind he's worried about dying and he wants
I
to
know.
escape. And I think it's so interesting.
Which, speaking of Dog actually catches the problem that arises with Gordon's heart this arc, which spurs them
True.
to talking about giving Gordon a dog.
Yeah. That was a good point. I wonder if that will come to fruition or if Gordon dies next chapter because at this point, why not, man? Why the
Yeah,
fuck
like,
not?
yeah, why not?
um, we're fighting a bunch of clones this arc. Percy's not back. Percy's clones are back, which is pretty wild. Um, Wild Bill loves his clones, and they communicate with like sound based like sonar. And they have sound based attacks, but we like disrupt them by like scraping knives on shit. Um, there's a lot of fighting in this arc, I will say. Mary does lose to them, which is very demoralizing because she's losing to like the less experienced versions of herself.
That's the
Uh,
thing.
she she has a very big chip on her shoulder there.
She already takes failure hard, which is something Sai remarks on often. So like that combined with the fact that like she finds out this scientist that she's been conditioned to love from birth is back in a way, and he's created new of her, and they defeated her. It just hits her in all the wrong ways.
Um, Another interesting point is Mary gets fucked up. I couldn't go back to like catch exactly what was happening here. But correct me where I'm wrong or like explain it to me right now. Uh, Jamie, they're all trying to like pep talk Lillian and be like, you have to do this, you can do this. Like we need you to come through for us right now. Jamie drops like a bunch of medical knowledge to help her walk through whatever procedure they have to do. Is that right? Is that how that
He
went?
does, and he's not allowed to know this stuff.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Like, Sai tells Lillian to never bring it up that like Jamie knew that much about medicine. Why is that?
The Academy just wants a tight rein on who has Academy knowledge because I think they're effective because they can create problems only they can solve, and they kind of want to keep it that way.
God, that's so interesting that even Jamie is not allowed to know that, which is pretty interesting. But it also makes me think of like there's some secrets to Lillian where like she probably knows things about the lambs and like macro level things about this whole project and their missions that she can't let on. Um and she's like more important to the academy than maybe we realize where like she's allowed to know some of these deeper level things that even Jamie can't know, and I
That's the
thought that was
thing.
pretty
The
interesting.
Lambs are technically like a very, very top secret project. Even other high up doctors in the academy we've seen did not know about them. So the fact like she's this in depth with them is crazy.
Like you mentioned the scene where like they're surrounded by fire and like Helen's using herself as like a swing to get all the lambs across the fire. That was pretty cool. We corner Avis, yada yada.
Which like
So
that whole cornering her was badass because I'm like, this was the first, maybe not the first, but of all the moments I've seen in the story so far, this is the part I want to see on screen. Where the
yeah,
Duke he goes into this the top floor of this building I think is like kind of one big room that dips down in the middle. He steps in there, tall ass dude, draws his sword. She comes out, unfurls her angel wings, which I think are actually a bug with wings that hooks into her fucking spine. Then she makes an arena of fire around the room, and clones jump out. They start stabbing him. He gets stabbed no less than 13 times, some of them in the neck and the face. And then he walks forward covered in blood and fire all around him. And he goes, "Ah, this just reminds me of home." And I'm like, holy fuck, now I want to see the rest of you people.
I this story, man, I wonder what I feel like this would be the most adaptable Wild Bow story personally.
Probably.
And part of it is that because it's biopunk, I think it's more budget friendly. I mean, I'd be a sucker for a packed adaptation. I think Worm would have to be like animated, but I think I could definitely see a live act. The problem with this though is that the lambs would get too old too fast in real life, just based on how TV shows are made these days. So I guess that's not
Yeah.
possible either. Um, Anyways, uh, so also near the end of this arc, they're trying to like take Lillian from the group, not Helen. Like the Duke is trying to like recruit Lillian. What was up with that again?
Oh, yeah, not the doctor. The Duke was kind of asking if it's hard to tell what his true motivation here was. He was
Yeah.
asking Lillian if she would like to be a noble doctor. We don't know if he was actually offering it or what he wants, but he was asking her, and he's very particular about his conversations. He only wants yes or no answers. Like, so for example, if he asks, "Do you want to be a noble doctor?" Well, her answer is no, but she's like, oh my god, if I say no, will he cut off my head or something? And so she tries to offer like a no, but, and even just putting the but on the end, he's like,
Eh,
I, I
watch how you talk to me.
which like and that's why anytime he's in the room, it just makes you sweat.
So, okay, brass tacks.
Brass tacks.
Upsets the Duke. What I forgot what exactly because he skirted the line with the Duke many times, but there was one thing in particular that set the Duke off. What was that?
It's hard to
'Cause
know for sure what the
maybe I think it'll become clearer once we start reading arc 7, I would imagine. But yeah, I was wondering if you knew like exactly.
if we're going based on the Duke's own words, which obviously those only go so far, he says that his problem is simply the insolence with which Sai spoke to him. Because there is kind of this whole conversation where he's talking about breaking up the lambs, and this is where Sai presses the point, actually
Yeah.
kind of argues with him a little bit,
Okay.
and yeah.
Okay, I was just like, yeah, it was it that exact one, or I was like, I wonder if it was like one of the earlier ones, like with Helen early on a
I
little
think
bit.
Sai argues his point, and at the end of the conversation, the Duke even reaches a point where he is like, you are right, because the way Sai sells it to him is that it would not be a good like strategically, if what you want is effective lambs who will fight for the crown as good as possible, breaking us up right now is not the move. He specifically says, I think you are smarter than you are being right now. And him saying that leads to the Duke kind of saying, like, you know what? I think you're right, Sai. Because usually he calls him Sylvester, but I think there's like moments where he kind of puts emphasis on Sai. Um, he's like, you're right. That wasn't the right move. I will let the lambs stay together, but you are still going to have to be punished for the insolent way you spoke to me earlier. And I think Sai does get a punishment.
The arc goes on. It seems like we're okay for now. This is a future issue. Jamie was the punishment.
Jamie
They
was the
fucking
punishment.
whacked him. And in
Because
arc 6.
in arc
That's
6,
crazy.
I think back
That's
in
crazy.
arc 3, Sub Rosa slammed Jamie against a wall, and it looks pretty bad. And I was like, I feel like this is too early to kill a character off, but how crazy would that be? I didn't think 3 arcs later it would actually happen to that very same character. But that's the thing. When Sai was talking to the Duke, the Duke was very clear, like, okay, fine, like, the lands aren't going to break up right now, but I'm going to want y'all for certain things in the future. And I think Sai says, wouldn't it make more sense to break us up after the first of us has actually failed or died? The Duke says, fine, Sai, but you still have to be punished for your insolence. And then less than a chapter later, one of the lambs dies.
It like I guess just like in my mental map, I'm like, they're probably all gonna die, just knowing how the story goes. Like Lillian and maybe one of them will survive, whatever. But in my like mental roadmap, it's like we can't start doing this till like 9, till we're like in the final quarter or something. 6, halfway through the story, just caught me way off guard. Especially when it is like one of the best characters in the story and just had like a bunch of like focus. Um, but it's so smart how the focus was done. We're like, we weren't clearly setting up for like a Jamie finale arc, but he was getting a lot of interesting moments throughout that. But like all the lambs were doing a lot of Gordon focus. I think it's so brilliant, right? Because Gordon's losing his feelings. Gordon's heart is breaking down. We gotta get Gordon a dog. Clearly, Gordon's the first one to go. It's all just there to distract you or like put you in a state of mind where you were not expecting Jamie to be the first to go. I thought
Dude,
that was
and
really well done.
I'm still reeling from it because I just read that like a day and a half ago.
Yeah.
And man, before before Jamie kind of goes under for his appointment, they get that last interaction where Sai's had all these awkward moments with Jamie where they glance at each other and Jamie looks away or he looks sad because in Jamie's mind he's probably thinking like, oh, I don't know, Sai probably doesn't feel the same way about me now that I confessed. And we know from Sai's point of view that he's like, holy shit, no, I like, dude, like you're my best friend. I don't
Yeah.
want I don't
He,
want that. And
he does not process it, but he doesn't love him any less. And Sai's thing is like, I want to be here when he goes to sleep, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna be here when he wakes up, and then I'll finally go get my wyvern that I've been like begging for the whole arc. It's there to like show you how important this is. That where he's delaying his appointment to get the wyvern because he's been bitching about it for like 2.5 arcs, right?
Yeah, and Jamie's trying to tell him. Jamie's like, Sai, you don't have to sit there for my appointment. And it breaks Sai's heart. He's like, dude, when have I ever not? Why would I ever not? And I'm really glad he makes the decision to stay. And the moment he's kind of sitting there thinking about it, he's been commenting on missing his Wyvern formula, like you mentioned, this entire arc. He's like maybe a lot of these interactions would have gone differently or gone better if I had been thinking the way I normally do with the Wyvern formula, but he kind of has a moment where he has that option to go get the Wyvern formula, and he purposefully doesn't because he's like, I want to decide. I want to decide how I feel about Jamie and what to do for my friends without it. And he does. And I think the decision he makes is that the right thing to do is just to stay here and be here when he wakes up and let him know that nothing's changed. He's my best friend. But so we get the good feelings of Sai having made that decision without the Wyvern formula, but obviously that moment will never come.
Yeah. And that's the last major thing. We're left with the one time you put up a decent fight, Sai, which is just goddamn, dude. Twist that knife.
I
Why
know
don't we?
that was a good little
Um,
line.
got him. You boomed him. Yeah. So where do we go from here? I feel like we are going to continue the story with this new Jamie, and we are going to spend quite a lot of screen time, like rationaling this brand new team member and the fact that he's not our old team member, but he's still Jamie, and we're gonna make new bonds with him, but they're gonna be different bonds, and it's gonna be awkward and weird, and we're cooking. We're gonna do some very interesting things with this shell of a character
Oh
now.
yeah.
Because he wakes up, he's blank, he doesn't remember anything. There's no light behind those eyes. He's gonna make new memories. Now, in the scene with Lillian, where he's helping her fix Mary, was there another person there, like a third party? I'm trying to remember. There was like another doctor there or something.
So Catcher was there, and the thing
Oh
when Jamie
shit!
starts listing off the academy knowledge, Sylvester immediately looks at Catcher, and he's like, there were no tells. Catcher didn't look at us. He wasn't flinching or anything. And after the surgery was over, Mary's okay, and they're all walking back to the academy. I think they're even having a conversation about it with Lillian because I think even Lillian was like, "Wait, Jamie, like you're not supposed to know that stuff." And Sai was like, "Look, Dog and Catcher, they're cool." He's like, I'm cool with them. Do not discuss this with anybody else on the planet. But then part of me is
Other, it
scared. I'm
just
like, what if
dawned on
Catcher did snitch, man?
it just dawned on me that Catcher snitch, bro, because like he likes the Duke. He likes taking orders from the Duke.
He
He's
said
cool
he
with him.
explicitly said, I like the Duke.
So we have two very interesting decisions here. Either Catcher snitched or Lillian the spy snitched. Our love interest.
Neither good.
These suck. Now I hope it's Catcher, but I think it would be very interesting if it's Lillian. Um, it would be heartbreaking, but I feel like that has to be it, right? Because like, why wipe out Jamie? Not just to torture Sylvester. It's like the Duke got the tip. Hey, Jamie knows too much. Time for us to do a reset, but we keep all the memories in the brain caterpillar. The project goes on, yada yada, but we just got to clean his slate. We'll lose a little bit of progress, something like that. Like, you know, like it'll slow us down, but we got what we need for now. We'll keep the project going, something like that. I could see the Duke fault like being like listening to that, and then on top of the fact that he wants to punish Sylvester, he's like, "Oh, easy. I know exactly what to do. Let's just wipe him out. It's the perfect timing." And then he does it. I feel like that's what happened, and it's brutal, man. The actual interlude, like, I'm not that interested in Mavis Avis, but what was interesting is that it just adds more to the Duke's cruelty because he shows up and he like messes with her and his like weird tone where like it's calm but very scary at the same
I think
time.
she said it's
We're
like the
like,
way like a teacher would scold a 5-year-old kid or something.
yeah, and and he's not like sometimes he's not threatening in his words, but sometimes it's very clear that you're about to get punished. Like it's very mindfucky. You never know like how seriously he's gonna punish Mavis during that interlude.
And the
Like what intensity he's gonna go to for whatever they were just talking about.
and the punishment's pretty horrifying. He brings her in for questioning, and even before I think this particular chapter, he's expressed I don't know how true this is. He has expressed a distaste for needless violence and torture. What he has done to her is they have her restrained in this room and they have altered her brain so that her sense of time is not the same as a normal person's. And so he basically goes in and just asks her a couple questions like, "Will you tell me where the other rebels are?" But then when he goes outside, he's talking with some of the doctors. And I think Lillian is there too. And he's talking to the doctor. He's like, "Isn't it true that she could have hours or even full days of time between lines of questioning?" Because the way he's presenting it is that we're just giving her more time to think. He's like, no one can think when they're being grilled under pressure and tortured and stuff all at once. So he's like, we're gonna ask her a question. I'll go back in there 5 minutes later. To her, it will have been 2 days. She'll have had plenty of time to think, and she can calmly answer. And after explaining, and he's like, yeah, can it be days between lines of questioning? And the doctor's like, my lord, it's more like decades. And then
Jesus, dude, decades is crazy.
and so the Duke is like, see, no pain, no mutilation, no torture. I hate that stuff. And Lillian does what Sai does, and she kind of goes out on a limb, and she's like, my lord, I think you're underestimating how frail ordinary men are. This could easily be perceived as torture to the common person. And he seems to, like, actually consider this because he brings up the fact that the modifications they put on her, he has had from the moment he is born. He says what it allows him to do is devote exactly enough thinking time to whatever task he is doing. So
Horrifying power.
and so
Or
that's the thing.
curse.
For him, it's just kind of natural. For him, like, yeah, having as much all the time in the world is important. I'm a noble. I have to stop and think about this stuff. But for her, it's like he asks a question, they gag her, and then she sits there for 5 years waiting for him to come back in. But she's like, even the simple act of breathing is horrifying for her because of the way time is dilated. You take a breath, and then obviously you're going to reach a point at which your body needs to take another breath. But that moment is stretched out so long that despite the fact she can breathe just fine, she feels like she's suffocating during the time of like trying to inhale that breath.
Going over all of this again, yeah, maybe that trigger warning was very needed.
I was like, fuck.
This is horrifying, man.
But it's all good fun. She gets out. She gets out.
She gave what she knew about the rebels, right? Even like her own family members, she had to give up, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so that's the thing. The Duke was like, I will let you out of here and we will fix you. You just have to tell us where all of your friends and family are so that way you can't defect. You know what I mean? Because then we'll just kill all of them. She ends up getting out of here. By the time she gets out, 3 seasons have passed. She meets up with Frey on the outside, and obviously I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is her escaping, defecting. What about her friends and family? And Frey just says, please do not go looking for your loved ones. You are only going to find hurt. You are on the outside. We need to fight the Academy.
Wild. And then she sees someone with Frey. It's what's his name, right? God, it starts with
I think
W.
Warren.
Warren. And his beautiful blue eyes, which is like his trademark thing, right? She sees rage in them. Not like comfort, not anything, but like rage that gives her the fuel to keep going, which is an interesting like thing to draw hope from. But that's what she has at this point. You know what? Better interlude than I thought. Thinking
Better than the
about it,
previous
very
one.
good. I like. Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. And again, it just sets up the Duke as such a good villain.
But I don't know. That's the meat of these 3 arcs. There's a few other fun moments I might want to touch on.
Yes, this is.
I don't know if you had any
got
extras.
all my. Sorry, I got all my big ones out the way. So this is the Bradley Power Hour, and we'll see if I have any thoughts.
A lot of them are just kind of fun characterization. Like, not all of them are important. Some of them were just kind of fun moments of showing truly how non-human Helen is. Because, like, I think there's a moment where they're all riding a carriage together, and Sai mentions something about pretty girls, and he gestures to both Lillian and Mary, and Helen's like, "What about me?" And Sai's like, "No, no, you look ugly, all cut up and burned up like that." And Lillian's like, "Sai, you can't just say that." And he's like, "Helen doesn't care." And Helen's like, "No, I really don't." And it's just weird because it's like she doesn't. And then like there's another moment where I think Lillian wants Helen's comb or something, but she's fast asleep, and she's like, "I don't want to bother her. That's rude." Inside just like pokes her in the middle of the forehead, and her eyes snap open. He says comb. She robotically hands it over, closes her eyes, and starts snoring again. It's like she doesn't even get like she doesn't even get an annoyed huffiness at being woken up. Like that's how different even sleep is for her. And there were a few other times like that, but I really wanted to look at some of these moments with the Sai and Lillian flirting because up until arc 6, I was very much in the Sai Mary camp, which I think I told you. I read the comments under each chapter,
Yeah.
and people have felt very strongly about all their shipping pairs, which we've had like literally every pair except for maybe Sai and Gordon, because people are like they would just fucking kill each other. Um, but no, Sai and Lillian has been really cute. There's kind of like a flip flop of a certain situation in arc 6, where at the start of the arc, Sai does one of his fucking jokes about. I think he mentions putting an ice cube down Lillian's like skirt or something, and Jamie's like, "Huh, Sai, I don't know. That's kind of interesting. That's the fifth time today you've mentioned the underneath of Lillian's clothes. Do you want to tell us something?" And then everyone starts clowning on him for it, and he's like, he's
Hit his
trying to
ass.
defend himself. And then there's a moment later on in the arc where uh, Lillian's favorite insult for Sai has been calling him a peen. And there's a moment where he's making fun of her, and she has a scalpel in her hand, and she threatens to like stab him in the crotch. And Jamie's like, I don't know. That's the sixth time today she's mentioned Sai's crotch. And then Sai's like, oh, interesting. And so they kind of flip the teasing around on her. Um, but the two that really got me, like I was laughing, is I think it's right after Lillian saves Mary's life, and Jamie and Sai had to give her whole pep talk, and Sai comes over and she wants Sai to like help her up, but he's not doing it, and he's like, first you have to say I'm the best little doctor in all of Radin, and she starts saying it. She's like, I'm the best doctor, and he's like, no, you have to say best little doctor, and she immediately starts screaming and like is scrambling across the ground for something to stab him with. And there's like another one where they're walking together and he's trying to be nice because I think she was crying and she needs to blow her nose, and he holds out his sleeve and he's like, yeah, just blow it. And she's like, Sai, that's so nice, but that's so gross. I don't want to do that on your shirt. And he's like, I'm going to change soon anyway. And so she blows a bunch of boogers all over his shirt, and then he immediately wipes it off on her. And the
This
text,
one was
I'll
diabolical.
say, the text described it as Lillian started shrieking and like. But then, like, I don't know. I think these moments are just more fun now after having been told by one of the other girls that she kind of enjoys the teasing, because I think there's a part where Lillian, Jamie, and Sai are all together, and he's teasing her, teasing her, teasing her, teasing her. But during part of that, he was holding her hand, and after all of that is over, despite how pissed off he made her, she says, "Thank you for holding my hand and being nice earlier." So I'm like, nah, she likes him.
The moments of sweetness are so sweet.
So yes,
They
Sai and
just
Lillian are so
are
cute. I
built.
love them.
Yeah, yeah. So is that your ship? Are you a Cy Lillian now?
I'm a Sai Lillian now. Sounds like a type of alien, but
So, yes, the Lillian race. Um, I had an idea of like, what if we bang out quick little tier list, halfway point, we update it later, see how it changes.
that could be fun.
Um, it could be fun. I found a tier list, the only one I could find. So I got as many names as I could recognize. I didn't look too deep. I saw one name that I was like, oh, and then I couldn't find another name of like a main character. And I was like, maybe I don't even want to think about it. Maybe we don't do this yet. But it would have saved us time in the future. Um, but you know what? Let's not, because I think wondering why a character is not here and what the fuck that other name could mean is just too much to think
It's too
about. So
much.
that's fine. I will tell you one day what that name was, because I was like, I cannot believe what I just read, but okay.
Yeah, no. After the end of Arc 6, it is very hard for me to predict like what is going to happen next at all. So,
Yeah, yeah. Man, I don't know. Gordon dies next chapter. That's all I know. That's where we're at this
Arc
point.
6 was called Lamb to the Slaughter, and we had all these issues with Gordon's heart. I assumed if one was going to die, it was going to be him at the end of this arc. So I got hit pretty hard.
It was so deliberate, and I'm finally free now. I don't have to listen to whack ass dungeon crawler Carl. I can get back to good
Yeah.
books and start Arc 7.
So that's
Looking
the thing.
forward to it.
We're hitting Arc 7. We're hitting Arc 8. Might even throw a 9 in here for the next one. We could always play it by ear because like this was a
Yeah.
trio of chapters where we had thought about doing 4 and 5, and after reading 6, I realized if we did not read 6, we would have been missing out because I feel like these three go
It's
well together.
it's tricky because we could have convinced ourselves to do 5. I'm sure we would be like, yeah, that's a good point. Little did we know, like starting with 6 would feel wrong. Um, in like one of these discussions. So
We'll see. We'll
guess we'll
see.
see.
We'll see how 7 and 8 are feeling, and which ones would group well together. But if you are listening, thank you for being here. We've liked getting to hear people's opinions because, like I always say, there's not a whole lot of Twig talk going on out there. So that's what we're trying to do is get more.
All you
Um,
have is us.
all you have is
You
us.
you have the leashing chemicals in you, so come back in a month or two for your next dose.
All right, you got any last minutes, Willer?
I do not.
All right, well, if you listen to the whole thing, thank you very much for being here, and we are excited to have you with us next time.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.